welcome to the review, and welcome to the third video. In my Hyborian Gates series. This one is just going to be a walkthrough on setup, turn sequence, and other game functions. So a walkthrough of gameplay, so you understand how to play this game. And that way you can determine for yourself if this game is, like I said in that first video, if despite the obvious intentions of the game, if there's still a fun game in here. And I think there is, but I'll let you decide as I walk you through this. Okay, so for setup, a player will bring three things: your stack of pyramids, your draw deck, and your set of dimension cards. There should be 6 of them. Then you're going to decide which player's set of dimensions you're going to use for the game. So we're going to assume that we decided that we're going to use my set of dimensions, and this is why I don't have one for him in the example. I sort of preset that, but again, in any given game you're going to have all 3 elements that you bring to the gaming table. Alright, so again we're going to assume that we're going to go with my set of dimensions. He sets his aside, and then we do setup. So here's the setup. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your dimensions, and the dimensions are going to go between the players. In a 2-player game, it's just going directly between us. In a 3 or more player game, you're going to have it however you want to situate it. Between all players. Between all players. Then you're going to go ahead and, like I said, you're going to put out whoever's set of dimensions you guys elected to go with. So it's going to go in this order, and I'll start. So here is Hyboria. Then you're going to put out Gaia after that, next to it. After Gaia, you're going to have Asgard. After Asgard, you're going to have Atlantis. Then after Atlantis, you're going to have Osiris. And then finally, you're going to have Chaos. And there you go. So you're going to set up the dimensions like so, in a line, in that order, in a line, again, between the players who are involved in the game. But there you go. So that is, let me make sure that this is the right orientation so it's seen easier. There we go. Alright, so there we go. So there is our set of dimensions. So once you have the dimensions set up, then the next thing you do, which is fairly simple, is you're going to go ahead and go into your draw deck, and you're going to select 2 things. You're going to select a starting gate you want to use and a starting trooper. Let's use the gate first. So I have what I want on top, and so does he, so this will make it quick. I'm going to use Norn's gate. So you're going to grab your whatever gate you want to start with, and you're going to put it into your gate area. And let me explain that. So the game is going to consist of 3 areas on each player's side. Well, actually two areas that are solely on the player's side, 1 in the middle. So you have the dimension area, which is again the one area between both players. But then on each side, each player's going to have 2 areas that are their own. You're going to have a gate area. We're going to put all your gates. And then below that is going to be your ready area. We're going to put all your troopers that you're going to be sending out to dimensions. So what you're going to do, and that's it for setup. And then, off to the side, you'll have your draw deck, which for me is going to be off camera on this side. Same with him. Anyway, so you're going to select 1 gate, and you're going to put it into your gate area. And I'm selecting my Norn's gate. And I'm going to go ahead and put that right into my gate area like that. Now you do also select and grab one matching pyramid out of your stack of pyramids that you're going to go ahead and put on the gate. And it has to be matching. So Asgard's color, if you see from the dimension and also on the symbol itself, is white. So I'm going to grab 1 matching white pyramid. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to stick it under and there. Now, this is if you're keeping the gate in a card format. Do you slide it under the gate? This is only if you're keeping this in a card form. Do you put the pyramid under the gate? If you did punch out the pyramid to actually form a pyramid, then you would just place that pyramid on top of the gate. But if you're keeping the pyramid in card form, then you just slide that pyramid under the gate like I just did. So, and I prefer keeping the pyramids in the card form. It's easier for storage that way, etc., etc. Anyway, so I'm going to slide it under. So now I have my active pyramid complex, which, like I said in the video, consists of a pyramid and a gate. So there we go. So I selected mine. He's going to select his. He's going to grab the gate he wants to start out with, and he's going to start out with Kronos' gate, which is just the guide version of my gate for game effect. And I'll explain that when we get to the actual draw phase. Okay, so he's going to put his into his gate area. I'll just put the opposite mine so that we keep it clear on who's got more of this or that. And then the matching color for the Gaia dimension is green. So I'm going to put one green pyramid under, since the pyramid's in card form, put it under the gate card. Like that. And we're good to go. Alright, so that's that. So we picked our gates. The last thing we need to do for setup, like I said, is pick our starting trooper. I am going to start with Hyde. He's my 12-9 biggie. He's got a strength of 12 attack and 9 defense. Again, strength is the general term for the overall attribute numbers that they have on them. And again, that's broken up into 2 numbers, attack and defense, but that's all their strength. So again, my trooper's strength is 12 attack, 9 defense. And since he's so big, he does have since he's so big naturally without any help, he does have a downfall. He cannot use vehicles to transport. So he uses gates to transport like normal, but he can't use the transport ability on vehicles, which you'll see here in the game, in the walkthrough. Alright, so he's going to go here into my ready area, which is again right below my gate area. And there we go. And then he's going to do the same thing, and he actually picks the same kind of a trooper. He picks his 12-9 biggie. And this one's downfall, the Dragon Slayer, is that he can't use Gaian magic. But he's going to use that guy to start out, and there we go. So we've selected everything. We go ahead and put our pyramids off to the side. So his pyramids here are going to go off to the side. And then my pyramids are going to go off to the side, because I'm not going to use them. Actually, let's do it this way. You know, and we do that because we're not going to use the pyramids at all until we absolutely have to. So, I'm just going to do it that way. Okay. There we go. Alright, so we stay off to the side, then we take our draw decks, and we shuffle. Right. So I've done shuffling. Thank you for staying with me on that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, and once we're done shuffling, we draw 7 cards for a starting hand. 1, 2, 6 and 7. Okay, this isn't quite what I was hoping for, but I'll take it. It's better than nothing. Alright, now he's going to draw 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Alright. Alright, so there's our starting hand of 7. And there we go. And then we have our starting hands, and that's it. That's set up. That quick, that simple. That's set up for Hyborian Gates. We're ready to play the game. So we're going to run through the phases now. Or what we call the stages, of the sequence. So now we're set up, we're going to start. Now this game consists of several different stages within a sequence that will be repeated over and over again until someone meets victory conditions. And again, victory conditions in this game as you control in a 2-player game, and this will change based on, the more players there are, the less you have to control. But on a 2-player game, we have to control 5 of the 6 dimensions to meet victory conditions. Or, if any player's deck runs out, then the game does immediately stop, and whoever controls the most dimensions at that point wins the game. Alright, so the sequence, like I said, consists of several stages that we're going to repeat until someone wins. So let's go run through the stages. Alright, so here we go. We are going to go through it. So, the first stage, now, all the first 3 stages are simultaneous, meaning we will act at the same time. There's no initiative in that. So, the first stage is the draw stage. So we get to draw a card. Okay. He's going to draw a card. Okay, So we each draw a card. Now, we each draw one card by default, and then we look at seeing if we can draw additional cards. That'll be based off an equation by default, and then any other cards that may be on the table. The equation by default is you also get to draw one additional card during the draw stage for each dimension you control. Up to a max of three additional cards. So he controls no dimensions. I control no dimensions, so we have no additions from that. And then we also have some gates, which I said I was going to point out. My gate is Norn's gate. His is Cronus's gate. It has the same effect, just different dimensions. Mine is Asgard. His is Gaia. But if we control those said dimensions, we get an additional card draw as well during the draw stage. So, so again, that's only one card draw for right now because that's all we meet. So, then we go on to the next stage, which is the gate stage. The gate stage, like I said, is simultaneous. Both players, if they have any gates in their hand, may play one of those gates into their gate area. I have none. Unfortunately, he does, which is bad for me. So, he's going to play this gate into his gate area. Now, when we do setup for that initial gate, it has to be a matching pyramid color, but during the course of gameplay, when you're putting gates out during your gate stage, they can be any color for that one that you match up initially. However, most people are going to put a matching just to get the most transportation power out of it possible, because they don't know what they're going to do with it yet. So usually they still put a matching color on there. So this Anubis gate is in a Siren gate, so that would be orange. So he's going to grab an orange pyramid, put that under, so he now has two active gate complexes. He has a lot of reach now on the board, which really sucks for me. Just great. Just great. Alright, so, yep. Yep. Alright, so he does that. I didn't have any, like I said. The next stage is now, since we both acted on stage 2, the gate stage, you now go to the third stage, the sequence stage. And that simply, all that is you're determining who has the initiative and who's going to run through the next stage first when we get to stage 4. And the way you determine that is whoever has the most active pyramid complexes on the table. Like I said, this is bad. He had a gate to put out, I didn't. So that puts him in the lead for initiative. So he has two he has two pyramid complexes out. I have one, so he gets to go first on the initiative. So he gets to run through stage 4 first. So we've determined who goes first. That ends stage 3. Now we go to stage 4, which is the player turn stage. And we've determined initiative. He gets to run through stage 4 first. Now this is the first of the stages that are not, as you've just deduced from how I've worded it, is not simultaneous. So now he could play any power surge cards he wants if he wanted to at this point. There's none he wants to play, and he's looking at his hand. Alright, so he's deciding that he doesn't want to play any power surge cards, but he could decide later if he were to draw some cards somehow later in the turn. So he's going to run through his first phase of stage 4, which is the overload phase. At this point, he can overload any or all of his gates. If he wanted to overload, he could, and he doesn't want to, but let me run through what overload does. If you're to overload a gate, what happens is you're going to put any amount of additional pyramids onto the gate that you're overloading with a max of 4 additional pyramids. And then what you're going to do is you're going to then move, and then you're going to mark how much time is left for that gate before it self-destructs after you overload it. Now the way you mark that, if you've punched out the pyramids to actually have pyramids, is you're going to stack those pyramids on each other, every additional one on onto the initial one, until you have a stack of pyramids, and then you're going to take that stack of pyramids and place it on one of these numbers on the gate. I'll put over so it's easier to see. So you see you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I overloaded with a max of 4 additional pyramids, and I had the pyramids as stacks, Then I'd take 4 additional pyramids, stack them onto that initial stack, so that I would have a 5 pyramid stack. I'm sorry, and then I would move that onto the appropriate number. And so for every additional pyramid, you're going to count down from 4. So if you put 1 additional pyramid on there, you're going to take that pyramid stack and put it on the 4. If you put 2 additional pyramids, you're going to put it on the 3, and so forth. So if you put the max of 4 additional pyramids on there, you're going to take that stack of pyramids and put it on the 1. Now, that's if you do punch out the pyramids to make the stack. If you do it like I did, where I just keep them in card form, you're going to take the additional pyramids and put them under there, and then you would just go ahead and use some kind of counter, such as I like to use a die 6, and because there's 4 there, and I just use some kind of counter. I just use a die 6 normally, and I would just put it on there. So if I had overloaded the max pyramid, I'd put all 4 additional pyramids under this pyramid, so I'd have 5 pyramids under the gate, and then I would stick this onto the one side of the die and stick it on the gate like that for the counter. So those are both ways you could do it, but that's just explaining overload and how you mark it. So again, the first phase of the player turn stage is overload phase, and he can overload as many gates as he'd like that he has available to overload on that phase. Now, the other rule is you can only overload a gate once. You can't overload it by 1 and then later on in a later turn decide, oh, I'll overload it again for another 1. You can't do that. You can only overload a gate once, so you have to plan ahead and really think about, what do I want to do with this gate when you overload it? How long do I want it to be there? And how much transportation power do I want to produce with that gate? So I like that part of the game because it's very strategic and it gives you a lot to think about. So you have to really sort of plan it out. But anyway, so his overload phase, he's not going to overload. It's too early in the game. It's turn 1. There's no reason to do that. So he's going to pass on the overload phase. The next phase is the attach phase. Now, if he has any cards that he can attach in his hand, he can attach them to any or all troopers he has in his ready area. So he looks at his hand and he only has 1 attachment, this one, which is a companion, Dark Challenger companion. He's going to put that onto his trooper. So he's going to take that and put it under his trooper like this. So the benefit is his trooper now has a +3 bonus to his defense. So now the Dark Dragon Slayer, because of the Dark Challenger, is now a 12/12 for his stats. In addition, he's going to be able to subtract 2 from the attack value of the foe that he's fighting. So in effect, he has an effective 14 defense with a 12/12 strength. So it helps him a lot. Now the offshoot is, because of that, this trooper is more beefy. He's going to require more transportation power to move him anywhere, which instead of 1, it's 2 now, because of the 2 transport icons in total on this trooper stack. So he's going to use all 2. He can send this guy to Osiris, because he's got an Osiran Gate, so the primary dimension is Osiris for the Osiran Gate, and he's got Cronus's Gate, which is a Gaian Gate, so the primary dimension for the Cronus's Gate is Gaia. So if you go into a primary dimension for a gate, you have 2 transportation power if you have 1 matching pyramid on that gate, which they both do. So, and I'll go through more of the gate elements in terms of color and transportation power it gives you later. So he has 2 options, since this trooper has a 2 transport icons. So his 2 options are, again, like I said, with his 2 gates, he could send this trooper to Osiris or Gaia. Now, he could spread out forces and put him into Osiris, but he wants the advantage as soon as possible. So he's going to take the Dragon Slayer, and instead of sending him to Osiris, he's going to use the transportation power of the Cronus's Gate to send his trooper to Gaia. So he's going to go from the ready area. He's going to go from the ready area, using this gate's transportation power to send him to Gaia. So you put him right there, and now he is on Gaia, and he has control of Gaia. Make sure you can see this. Yeah. Alright, so he has control of Gaia. And I don't like that, because he's definitely causing me a problem. That is not cool. Okay. Now he has a very firm hold, which is really bad for me. Oh, man. Alright. So, I'm going to have to be a little more cautious with me. Okay. So, so you do the attach phase, so you do all those attachments. Then he has the move phase, which he just moved. Now, the other rule with a gate is you can only use the transportation power of a gate once per turn. Since I used up all the transportation power that was available to this gate, let's say I had another trooper, I could not go ahead and send another trooper from the ready area using this gate to a dimension, or vice versa. I can't use the transportation power of a gate to pull someone back from an applicable dimension back to the ready area using this gate, because again the transportation power has been used. Now he does have this other gate, so if he had a trooper there, then he could have also sent a trooper somewhere using this gate. But he doesn't, so he passes the move phase. Then it goes to the combat phase, where you initiate campaigns. And campaigns are a collection of battles that take place at one dimension or at one gate. So, there's no opposing forces anywhere, so we skip the phase. He goes now to his ready phase. His ready phase is he can play, again, any attachment cards he'd like, but also this difference is with this phase is in addition he can play troopers. He has one trooper to play. He's going to play Moondance into his ready area. So there's another trooper into his ready area. And then he's done placing anything. So once he's done placing any cards that he can and or wants to play from his hand, he checks his hand size at the end of the ready phase, and it has to be no more than 7 left in his hand. If he does have more than 7, he has to discard. Down to 7. He has 5 cards, so he's good. So he doesn't have to discard. We now go to the next stage, which is So after the player turn stage, we go to the player activation stage. So after the player turn stage, you go to player activation stage, stage 5. And then simply him passing the turn to the next person who needs to act or take the initiative during stage 4. So, and we do that, he does that by saying the phrase, "Your gates are active." So, he tells me, since he's done everything he could during his stage 4, during stage 5, he tells me, "Your gates are active." That kicks it, instead of going to stage 6, the final stage of the sequence, that signals that we need to repeat stage 4, or go back to the player turn stage, but with me as the initiative, the next player. So it kicks back to stage 4. So now I gotta run through the phases. So that, since everyone's acted during stage 4, by default the sequence does run to the next stage. So we now go to stage 6, the final stage of the sequence, and stage 6 is the end stage. The end stage is simple. All you do is you check for victory conditions. If someone's won, then that signals the end of the game and someone is declared a winner. So we check. I control a dimension, he controls 1, but that's it. There's not 5 out of 6 dimensions, so that's it. So, no winner, that kicks a new sequence. So that's going to kick a new sequence into play, and then we go for a new sequence. So that's a turn run through, and that's how the game runs, pretty basically here. So we're going to run through a couple other elements just as examples. So here's where we do combat. Now, I'm going to show you an example of combat since we have it. So, as the attacker, I get to put down any Dimension Vortex tactic cards that I want to play. So, I am just going to play 1, and I'm going to keep that. And then now, he as the defender can choose to go ahead and put down what he wants. So, he is going to go ahead and play 2 cards. As a defender, he gets to put 2 cards face up in response. So, he's going to put these 2 cards face up. I put 1 card face down as the attacker. So again, the attacker puts his Vortex Tactic cards face down if he wants to. The defender gets to put his face up. And then we're going to go ahead and resolve. Oh wait, never mind. I don't want to put that down. I just realized. because I need to save that to hold off stuff. No, I do want to do that. Okay. All right. So what he's going to do is, we then reveal, since he put down his Vortex Tactic cards that he wanted to play, I'm going to reveal mine. And now we resolve defenders first. So the defender is going to kick off his Red Rob, which says that tech or vehicles do not add to troopers. So the vehicle's bonus of +6, +8 is not going to count. So it's down to her 4/5 stat, which is still more than the Moon Dancer. So I'm still feeling okay, but that definitely changes things. That could make things a lot worse. And then he's going to go ahead and kick off his Scorpion's Tail. This allows him to discard up to 4 cards and draw 4 new cards. Up to 4 new cards, 1 for 1. So he's going to look at his hand. And he is going to discard... Actually, the only thing he wants to he's going to discard, I think, is this 1 card here to draw a card. Okay. And that's it. So now I resolve mine, and my gate. So my Black Lightning says that adds 5 to the strength of any trooper outside of his native dimension. So Asgard trooper is outside of his native dimension. They're in chaos, so it gives them a +5 strength. Now, specifically says in the rules that any effect that adds to strength is going to add to both. Any card or game effect. It says that in the rulebook. So, since strength is made up of 2 numbers, attack and defense, this is going to add 5 to attack and defense. They're both added to, because as per the rules in the rulebook for how you treat additions to strength. Because again, that makes sense. In this game, strength is merely a description of their combat ability, which is made up of 2 numbers, attack and defense. So, add 5, so that turns my Delsin into a total of, a 9/10. So Delsin is now a 9/10 despite losing the benefit from a vehicle. So, he's going to look here, and he's going to play, let's see, it's 4, 11. Let's see. Yep, he's going to do it. All right, so he's going to do it. And then now it's resolved. Since we resolved Dimension Vortex Tactics cards, we now, as the Gaian player, since he has a Gaian Trooper, he can play 1 Gaian Magic card per Gaian Trooper involved in the combat or in this campaign. So my campaign here so far is looking good. I'm still looking like I'm ahead, but he's tricky. He plays Gaian Magic, which I really hate every single time. So he's going to play Lightstorm. He's going to play a Gaian Magic card that adds 7 to the strength of a trooper. So that's going to outclass what I've got, which really sucks. So this adds 7 strength to a trooper. So now his Moon Dance that was a 4/1. His Moon Dance that was a 4/1 is now a 11/8. So 11/8 is up to stats to 11/8 versus my 10/11. No, my 9/10. I'm sorry. 11/8 versus 9/10. Now we go ahead, since we've both played all of our cards we're going to play. No one has a Power Surge card to play, which again, Power Surge cards you can play during combat, depending on the effect of the card. So no one's playing any of that, so we now go to abilities. You would kick off abilities based off, it doesn't say a specific order, I'll have to double check on that, from what I remember. So we kick off abilities. Alright, so we resolve that, so again we kick off, so now we kick off abilities. Alright, so her ability says, when killed, attached vehicle goes back to hand. So, at least the plus side is, if I lose, I'm still going to keep the vehicle. The Moon Dance ability says that will not allow companions to be used on either side. So he doesn't allow companions to be used on either side. So, as a result, none of those are applicable right now. So her ability does kick off though, so if she's killed, I keep the vehicle. Now, since all cards have been played, all game effects have been done, we now just compare stats. Now, as the attacker, I check to see if I succeed as the attacker first. His defense is 8. My attack is 9. I do get over the defense. You have to have attack greater than defense. If your attack meets defense, it's not enough. You have to beat the defense. Now, it's important I walk through this because a campaign doesn't end with a draw. Every battle ends with only one person walking away in this game. And the way that's facilitated is a rule that if you're, as the attacker, if your attack does not beat the defense of the defender, then the attacker loses that battle, no matter what their defense is. So, if the attacker's attack, so if my attack had been anything less than 9, if my attack had been 8, 1 off, then I would not have succeeded and I would have lost. And I would have lost Delsin from that alone. But my attack is 9. It is over the defense, so I do succeed in that attack. So he will lose Moondance. But then we also compare his attack. His attack is 11. My defense for Delsin is a 10. So his attack as the defender goes over my attacker's defense. So that means that he also wins, and I will lose Delsin. Now again, you're just comparing stats. There's no actual damage that's inflicted on both combatants. It's merely a stat comparison to see who wins in an engagement. So we both win, we both get killed. So, I lose Delsin, goes to my discard pile. He loses Moondance, goes to his discard pile. And this battler, because of my Delsin effect kicking in, goes back to my hand. So I keep my vehicle, but that's it. Alright, so that was an example of combat. So there you go. So there's a very basic walkthrough of the game and how cards functions and things like that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a flair and a taste for this game. I hope it gave you an idea. Again, I think that, and I hope you can see from this demonstration or playthrough, that again, despite the obvious it is that it was put into play to sell artwork, despite that, there is a good game in here, and I enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. But anyway, so there we go. That is it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.